Welcome to a Soul to Soul Talk with Joy Pedersen. I'm Bevan Bird. How are you, Joy?
Well, thank you. And you?
Awesome. Thanks for doing this with me today.
Thanks for asking.
Oh yeah, look forward to getting to know you better. So first I'll introduce you and we'll just start with a real summary thing, which is that you have a specialty of dealing with the darkness and clearing persecution. And Archangel Michael, who you work with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Said that this is your specialty. So now I'll go into it in more detail, and then we'll get into what kind of world that you want to create and the special work that you do. So Joy Pedersen is the founder of Express Success. She's also a doctor of divinity, licensed spiritual healer, certified spiritual health coach, and a certified law of attraction practitioner, helping people overcome their challenges of life by identifying and clearing their root cause. She began Express Success to teach people the law of attraction while working at Paramount Studios in television publicity when she recognized the struggles of those trying to enter or to get jobs in entertainment. During her 10 years in television, putting celebrities on TV, she did the business part-time. And while still living in Hollywood, she also started the first women's business networking organization. And before it was vogue to network, she taught networking across the country. Oh, that's very cool. That's very interesting. Finding herself back in her home state of New Jersey, she learned the ability to channel, connecting directly to God, angels, and others in heaven, and now has expanded to teach people how to network cosmically to help people succeed quicker and easier. That's really awesome. Look forward to digging into that. And you can also find some of her messages at a blog that she's published at angelenlightenment.com, Angel Enlightenment, as well as in the book, Archangel Michael came to her to write Wisdom of the Guardian, Treasures from Archangel Michael to Change Your Life. Archangel Michael works with her in her practice, as was instrumental in enrolling her to focus on healing the cause of people's challenges using the spiritual process that she was taught in 1986 to clear blocks by releasing the negative memories and errors that are holding people back. And she's also a contributing author of the award-winning book, Big, Bold Business Advice from New Jersey Women Business Owners. Her chapter addresses how your subconscious may be sabotaging your success. All right, lots of deep and powerful stuff. I look forward to continuing to see where you go in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on the show today. So what kind of world do you want to create, Joy?
I want to create heaven on earth, which is a place of joy, peace, love, balance, freedom, and abundance.
Awesome. All right, me too. How can we create that together?
Well, one of the challenges right now is really dealing with the darkness, as you mentioned, because the world was run by darkness for eons. God now owns the world again and is in charge because enough light was brought into the planet, enough people chose the light to empower the light. The challenge, however, is the dark leadership has been taken out of the game, primarily, but there's been a lot of followers, and they have been in general sabotaging the world. They've worked through industry, religion, government, education, healthcare, manipulating
and media
and undermining. The programming that has gone on for eons of time also has been about separation from God. We came here like it's a game. If you look at coming to Earth as a game, and there's the dark team and the light team, and we had our light snuffed out in order for us to understand what it was like to be separate from source, and then find our way back and just determine which is better, operating separately or as one. the darkness has been in play to undermine that effort, to test us, to help create our karma, our lessons. And they've also taken advantage and have overstepped their boundaries. They have free will as we have free will. So as we were separate from source and looked outside of ourselves, we often listened to those who were empowered that may have been manipulated and run by darkness, and it further caused challenges. What's happening now is that programming that was created for all of these lifetimes is so embedded that people are still running by limiting beliefs and fears that is undermining the results that are possible. And right now it's crucial for everyone to choose the light and choose that oneness and come from a place of love. And all of those who are out there operating from fear, lack, and limitation and judgment are causing more problems for themselves and others. And they may be genuine, lovely people, but with those attitudes, they are empowering the darkness. And right now it's crucial because there's going to be a big shift that will occur once mass consciousness elevates to a certain degree where there's enough people choosing the light that we will switch over to a new world order and have that opportunity to open up a new golden age and have peace on earth. Mm-hmm. Right now we're in what they consider in the Bible the time of tribulation. So you're going to see a lot more negativity right now, but it is the opportunity for people to choose. Am I going to rise above it or am I going to succumb to it? Mm-hmm. So I need help in getting the word out that people really have to be empowered, that they make a bigger difference in the world than they realize. Their thoughts are powerful. People's thoughts affect the weather. So, and most people don't even realize that. Mm. People are waiting for somebody else to fix things, but it's really up to the individual. People have to choose peace within before they can expect it elsewhere. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen to them. It has to happen through them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because we choose it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Any guidance or encouragement for people in choosing light?
Well, life is a lot easier. The more, well, let me go back to when I was working at Paramount and I saw people struggling.
Okay.
And I wasn't struggling. I got a job at Paramount quite easy, and that was curious to me why other people were struggling and I didn't. I didn't know it was supposed to be difficult. Mm. It was the belief that it's difficult often that causes the reality of it's difficult. Mm-hmm. When you raise your vibration sufficiently, you have enough light within to have an outlook of things are fine and have a relationship with God where you know your source is trustworthy. A lot of people fear God, for example, which is one of the reasons their prayers aren't necessarily answered. They may believe in God, but because they have a subconscious fear of God, they don't align with God. And although God is trying to give them what they want, they can't accept it because they have a misconnection, a misalignment. That fear is in the way. Mm-hmm. I had a conversation with, I talked to God, Jesus, and Archangel Michael, and anybody else in heaven. And Jesus said not too long ago, he said, you can't have an intimate relationship with someone you fear.
Absolutely.
And most people fear God, and he's to be respected. He's not to be feared. Mm-hmm. When people know how much love, forgiveness, and a lack of judgment he has, and just really coming from a place of love and support and wanting to supply, and people would trust it to receive it, it's a whole other game. Mm-hmm. So my job as a spiritual healer has been really identifying the hidden causes within people that are blocking their success, blocking their alignment with God so they can receive, and shift their consciousness so they are open, coming from a place of love and trust, and they can receive as well as ascend.
Okay. Do you see anything or sense anything that's blocking me from receiving money?
It's funny, I have to change my whole hat to do that.
Oh yeah.
I have to go into another frame of mind in order to look. But most people have blocks of some kind. I had a block to money when I first started. What I did was, when I learned about the people struggling and I wasn't, I wanted to learn about success, and that's when I learned about the law of attraction. So then I consciously was applying the law of attraction, and then I was teaching others to apply the law of attraction, and all of us were having success, and all of us had a lack of success in a particular area. At the time, mine was money. So I figured out that this is from within, and I wanted to look for a solution, and that's how I got down the path of spiritual healing, because I was introduced to, at that time, a Hawaiian process called Ho'oponopono, which means just correct or settle right. And you access the subconscious, you release the cause, and then your results are more effortless. And what's happened since that time is that I don't concern myself with money at all. It just comes. It's not that, oh, I'm a multimillionaire and I'm just, lavishing in funds. It's not that. It's like my needs are always met. I have what I need. I know God will take care of me. There's a sense of trust. I know who my source is. My source is infinite. And now money isn't an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not where I started, but that's how I started down this path.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I would encourage more people watching this to also interview Joy, or if you know someone with a influential podcast, to introduce them so that she can get her message out to more people.
Thank you.
So we can tip the balance to light quicker.
I actually do a monthly call the first Saturday of the month, which is more of a group call that clears a lot of limiting beliefs and fears that are holding people back. People don't realize often what it is that is holding them back. So that's something that actually God asked me to do that call. And we have the angels, archangels, and him, and a lot of dead relatives actually that show up. It's really something, but it's been really miraculous.
Ah, very cool. How long have you been doing those?
Just since I think April.
All right, cool. Is that a free one or paid?
No, we charge for that, and everything is spelled out on the Express Success website under events for the monthly call. But it's everything is divinely guided as to what we charge, when we start. We have to start at 11:11 because we open a portal. We close at 12, and 12 is the number of spiritual completion. A lot of my work over the years, clearing the karma for humanity, has been around the number 12. Like 12, 12, 12 was a big day for us. We had to write the last chapter for the first book of life. They wanted to close that book before we transitioned. So right before 12, at 12, 12, 12, my watch stopped. Michael said, the last chapter is written, the book is closed. So, and then on March 30th, 2013, after Holy Week that week, we had cleared oppression, martyrdom, the serpent energy, the story of Adam and Eve, a lot of significant things in history. And then that Saturday at 12:12, we did a ceremony, and then Michael announced that today was the first day of heaven on earth.
March 20th.
2013, and that day also adds up to a 12. So it's like 12, 12, 12. We closed the old era and opened up heaven on earth.
Awesome. So what else, what other kinds of gifts do you have for people, like the ways that they can work with you?
Well, I do a lot of my work. I do all my work over the phone. What I do is I tune into their subconscious. I literally can read minds, and I can access anything from the beginning of time. I don't always go into the stories. Sometimes I can just globally heal a cause because I'm working with the subconscious, and the subconscious has all the records. And it's all turned over into God's hands, and whatever is ready to be released can be released. But I could tell you a whole lifetime and describe it in detail. We often don't go there, but I've seen a lot of history by doing that, and then I clear a lot of history. A lot of my clients have been reincarnated people from the who's who in the Bible. They're usually clients that turn out to be old souls with a high purpose, with some blocks. Many light workers, they aren't doing their calling. Most of the people that aren't doing their calling have persecution issues from past lives. Inevitably, when I look at their past lives, I see lifetimes of being burned at the stake, being tortured, maimed, murdered, hanged. It's really lovely. And I clear that.
It explains why people are scared to be seen or things like that.
Right. I had to clear a lot of lifetimes of persecution before I could come out with my first book. And even before I'm coming out with my latest book, Clear Your Past and Change Your Future, it's out on Kindle, but I'm trying to get the paper version out before I really promote it. But it speaks of the work that Archangel Michael and I have done in clearing the cause of darkness and the history of humanity to set the world free and open up heaven on earth. But before I can do that, I've had to clear, and sometimes have to have help also, because when I'm too close to it and it was too gruesome, it's hard for me to look at it. When I'm looking at somebody else's, I can identify it, clear it, and move on. When it's my own stuff, I have to fight through my own blocks, and it's easier for somebody else to see them and clear them. So I even had to clear another lifetime a week ago where I was beheaded. And that's at least 4 that I know of. And I keep coming back to do this work.
Well, I'm glad that you are. Someone's got to do it.
Really?
How did you come into this? I'm wondering how it started. How did you start channeling or working with Archangel Michael?
All right. So I wanted to make more of a difference and left Hollywood. I had no clue on what I was going to do next. And I was watching a television show called The Other Side, which was on NBC. It was a talk show with psychics and the paranormal and all of that. And somebody was on there talking about automatic writing. And I said, oh, I'll try this. And immediately was able to communicate messages. So I started getting messages that way. I was curious about reincarnation, believed in reincarnation ever since I was a child, and went to a past life therapist out of curiosity. And after the 3rd session, I go, the information is right there. In accepting that truth, I was always able to remember it myself. What I didn't know is I could do it for other people. So then in 2004, I kept hearing this booming voice, you're going to find out who you are soon. And it would drive me crazy because I would hear it audibly and I didn't know who it was and all of that. So months later, Archangel Michael literally appeared in front of me and said that I was in him incarnate and that he wanted me to join him in a healing practice. And write his book, Wisdom of the Guardian, Treasures from Archangel Michael to Change Your Life. So I agreed. I learned later I probably should have asked more questions. I asked why was I a woman. He just said it was purposeful. I had no idea the reason was to clear darkness. It just felt natural, and obviously it was my calling. So I ran a business network at the time, and I was really uncomfortable to finally announce to them that I talked to angels. I figured all these, mostly men, came to the group, and I thought they were all going to leave. And 3 people hired me, which amazed me. And I started working with a business, or business people at the time. So most of my business has always been business owners. And I worked over the telephone because I didn't have an office. So I learned I could do it that way. And it sort of like I edged into this, and I realized I had gifts for clearing, and I had gifts for being able to see what was going on for them and their past lives. But over the years, what was interesting is the stories that I would end up seeing, a lot of the biblical history, a lot of our own history, history of the world, did a lot of clearing. For example, Desert Storm. I did a lot of clearing on Desert Storm, and I realized that that war had a lot to do with Alexander the Great. So there was holdovers from that war. And so clearing with Alexander the Great and that time period was useful to healing that particular war. So I started noticing that I was doing a lot of historical things in my work. I could see what happened. I could see a meeting that was like people were in discussion over creating Christianity, and like, let's use these Jewish laws. Let's not do these. Let's incorporate this. So I got an opportunity to clear that. So I would see where things started, including what started with the fallen angels. I could see what happened, why they really went dark. And I didn't know at the time that Satan and Lucifer were 2 different individuals. So I discovered a lot of things and was able to correct a lot of historical information in doing so. For example, the story of Abraham and Isaac. The belief is that God had tried to test Abraham by asking him to sacrifice his son Isaac. That wasn't the case. It was Satan testing him. And when somebody can channel, they can talk to anybody, dark or light. Today, a lot of people can channel, and people can verify each other's information to make sure it's accurate. At the time, if he's the only one who's channeling, who's he going to ask? And because we have free will, and because the game is set up where darkness can test you, that's part of this game on Earth. Satan was the one who tested him, but the darkness gave God the bad rap and said, okay, it was God testing him. The problem with that story, however, is that people became afraid of what God would ask them to do if they followed him.
And it wasn't God.
Correct. When I went back and I talked to Jesus, Michael, and God afterwards to say, okay, I want everybody to verify this, and what God said, he says, I didn't have to test him. I knew what was in his heart. But this is how a lot of fear has started over the years because of misinformation like that. I had a conversation with Jesus the other day, and I said, the common belief is that God sent you here to die. And it was darkness that caused his death. God doesn't send anybody to die specifically. Everybody's going to die, basically, but it was, and they think it's that God sent him to die. God sent him to save the world by teaching love. And one of the things that Jesus said is he's very upset, first of all, that everybody focuses on the cross and his death. What about all of his teachings?
Yeah.
He had wonderful teachings. And people think he died for their sins. They died because of their sins, because it was so dark. But again, people are afraid of God. Well, if God can ask his son to die or ask his son to kill his own son, why do I want to align with him?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just information that's been manipulated by darkness.
Yeah, you're saying God didn't send his son to die.
Right.
Hmm.
It was very dark at the time. And it wouldn't surprise anybody that he would die, because that's the nature of the world at the time. But if people listened to his message and really got his message and focused on love and aligning with God, they could have risen themselves out of the darkness. And that's where we're at now. A lot of people are waiting for God to come out of the clouds now and save them. They're really supposed to save themselves by rising out of the darkness, choose the light, align with God, and they bring everybody along with them by doing so.
Very good. Oh, yeah. I was listening to Neville Goddard recently. Do you know Neville Goddard?
No.
Okay. So in his work, he says that the Bible, all these stories, they're not stories of historical fact. They're just stories to teach us about different aspects of our mind. So it's like it teaches you that we create, like our consciousness is the same, it's one with God, right? Like so. Basically, we're aware of something and we think it's separate from us, but then going beyond that, you have to realize you already have it. You already are it. Right? Become aware, become conscious of being that already, right? That's how we create. Like he says, in the name of God, like Yahweh, like the name, like in Hebrew, the letters, right? So in the name of God and in Jesus, it's basically he's saying each letter means a certain thing, and it tells you here's how to manifest, right? This is how creation happens. So he's saying all the stories are not historical things. They're just teaching us different parts. Like there was one where the man has two sons and one goes into the forest, right? One is hairy and one has smooth skin, right? But then the one with smooth skin pretends to be the hairy one and gets his father's blessing. So then he explains what that story means in his interpretation. So he's saying that we can kind of like, we can fool the subconscious, right? By feeling as if it's already happened. And once you've felt it already, then you no longer want it. You stop desiring it, right? It no longer matters. But it will happen because you've already allowed it.
Often if you want to create something, you create it from within first. But I believe the stories often are real. They've just been manipulated. And it also, I even asked God before I came out with this work, I said, the Clear Your Past and Change Your Future has a lot of controversial information in it, including God speaking about what it was like to discover himself in the beginning. And the whole book is pretty much spiritual, but there's a psychological aspect to it. And I asked God originally, I said, I'm going to upset a lot of people. And, all this information is not going to sit well. And there's so many people with different degrees of beliefs and perspectives. He says, you have to teach from your perspective. And so that's all I can do is teach from the perspective that I have. But from my perspective, all those stories were very real. Now, if you think about it, if your imagination creates something, as you said, there's a story that exists and it lives and breathes. And there's a lot of people who have fear based on a lot of stories, in the Bible specifically. And until those stories are corrected and what really happened, they're going to operate from that fear, which is undermining them and all of humanity.
Yeah, I definitely support what you're doing.
Thank you.
What about like Adam and Eve with like what's the deal there with the snake?
Well, the snake was Satan. As Jesus was telling me one day, he says, animals could talk at the time, and that was acceptable. It's gotten out of people's conscious mind that is a possibility, so they don't believe it as well. But it was temptation, and he said it was a matter of a moment, and she decided to eat the apple. It wasn't like a long drawn out dialogue in her mind about should I or shouldn't I. She was tempted, she succumbed to the temptation, and she bit of the apple. But what he said is would happen eventually anyway. Somebody would have done something, and it was meant to happen, that they would move out of the Garden of Eden because you wanted to have a world of darkness to learn the difference. But Adam and Eve were really coming in with the Christ consciousness because there was evolution at the time, but they didn't necessarily have a high self. Everyone now has a high self, a conscious mind, the superconscious, high self, conscious mind, the subconscious, the inner child. And the people that were evolving didn't necessarily have that high self. So they brought in individuals from heaven to embody a new being. But there are different ways of making beings. Like I happen to be an incarnate angel, and archangels are made in a certain way. They're different than, say, some other species. But on the planet, there are individuals and angels from all over heaven, the galaxies, incarnating in the bodies on the planet in order to play out this particular lifetime, which is really the end of times, the end of darkness on the planet, and are here to help open up the new golden age.
Hallelujah. Yeah.
And it takes a lot of help right now because it's an uphill battle, it seems.
Oh, yeah. It doesn't have to be, though, does it? I don't think it has to be.
No, if more people were enrolled in how powerful they actually were. People were disempowered for so long that they gave their power away. What happened was you look outside of yourself instead of going in, and then you are confused, and then you listen to whoever seems to be the loudest, most confident person, and they might not be telling you the truth or what's good for you, but you follow them because you don't have the answer yourself, and somebody else might not be speaking up, and they might be leading you astray. But most people do that. They don't go in for the answer. They look outside of themselves, often ask their friends who aren't possibly also aligned with their high self or God, who has all the answers. And then what happens is they are listening to somebody that's listening or considering what's in their own mind, what their own past experience is. The average person is, again, also basing their decisions on their past experiences, and they're asking others. So everything's in their head and based on the past. If they went in, they could ask God, and God has the big picture, versus everything in the head and from what's happened in the past, which is limited all by itself.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, very limited, because we believe things or whatever limited us, that's what we then experienced. And then if we base our view of reality on that, we think that's all there is.
Right. And it's simple. It can be very simple. People are in their own way, blocking what God can show them. So when I asked God last year, I said, what do I do this year? Like, what do you want me to do this year? He says, I want you to teach people how to surrender. When people can surrender their body, mind, and spirit to God, their day, their job, their business, their relationship, God has the opportunity to work through people. And if you are following your inspiration, you're less likely to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You're not wasting your time and money.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing what's purposeful. And you have guidance that's aware of the all, and the typical behavior in heaven or with God is to take into consideration the all and not coming from a place of what's just in it for me. It's how is this going to impact others? So you're not creating karma. It makes life so much easier.
Oh yeah, that sounds like it's a big thing about creating heaven on earth. Well, what I'd
Yes.
like to do is if you can, you know, at the beginning of the mastermind, that last time, how you said some words to help us all align, like intent. Do you think you could do that now for us and anyone watching, so that an intention for today to be aligned, or even from now on, it's up to you what you think is best.
All right, let me think about it for a minute, because
Sure.
So I am going to ask that we surrender this moment to God. We allow God to work through us, giving our power over to Him so we become our most powerful. When we are aligned with God, all is possible. By giving over our day, this moment, this interview, our possible next steps, all to Source, all can be opened. So it's my greatest offering at the moment to clear your path, open the door wide open, and allow Source, God, the highest light, to provide the inspiration and give you the confidence and power to move forward in an effortless manner with good to all concerned.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. Thank you for giving that to us and to everyone watching and listening.
You're welcome.
So what's a great question that you wish I would ask you?
That's a good question. Well, let me think about that for a moment.
Sure.
I think, because I mentioned darkness before, I want to educate people a little bit on darkness and how that works. As I said, they're part of the game. So if you look at life as the video game, it's darkness that's going, eat the cookie. The angels are going, don't eat the cookie. So if you look at life as you're always getting input from a good source and a dark source, you have the opportunity in each moment to choose. Now, darkness can enter an individual when they're in an emotional state. So it's always paramount to keep peace, to always come from a place of peace and choose peace first. So if somebody has a decision to make, or they're having a problem, the first thing they need to do is bring themselves back to a place of peace and love and surrender to God, because otherwise you've got the negative, not only the negative from within, but in your own limiting beliefs from past lives or this lifetime in the subconscious, but you also have dark beings, eat the cookie. or, trying to undermine your confidence, your choices, offering that test.
Mm-hmm.
So always return to peace, come from a place of love, and align with God and source within, and get your information from within and verify it from within. Does this feel right? Is this really for my highest and best good? And when you're asking these questions from a place of peace and love in your heart, you'll make better choices.
Mm-hmm.
What people normally do is they react to something that happens,
Mm-hmm.
and they're often running out of a place of reaction, and that is often causing more karma, more things to be cleaned up. And if they nipped it in the bud and said, okay, before I do anything, I'm going to a place of peace and choose from there. And when you can surrender the situation and ask God what to do, you get better guidance anyway.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, don't make decisions under duress.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely make it a priority to always be peaceful.
Good.
Mm-hmm. It feels much better.
Definitely.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want people to know about darkness at this point?
Well, I can tell you that a lot of light workers aren't doing their job because of darkness, and a lot of that darkness was created in other lifetimes. They're carrying within their subconscious blocks and fears that are blocking them from using their gifts and doing the job they came here to do.
Well, you and I both want them to share their gifts and create heaven on earth together.
Right. So if the light workers got out of their own way, actually God asked me to do a program just to help them, because Michael said they're holding up the show because so many of them are operating from fear. If we could help them overcome their issues of persecution and they're no longer afraid to demonstrate their gifts, they could do their job. And the more people that are doing their jobs, the easier it gets for everyone.
Absolutely. Like a tipping point, or like the mastermind effect.
Right. But so much fear is going on. When they can just let that fear go and know that they have to choose not to empower the fear, know that they're bigger than that. I know when I do client healings, a lot of times I end up doing a whole half an hour, and it might be just around the subject of power. And they carry fear of power, their fear of their own power. A lot of it's based on lifetimes where they've been disempowered or they've misused their power. There's a whole convoluted storage of memory about power that then they don't stand in their own power. So if they can stand in their own power, they have the power to overcome any kind of darkness. And then they can also be true to their own gifts.
Okay, very good. So what's next for you?
Well, I can clear contracts that people have made with darkness. I clear contracts that a lot of darkness has taken out on, like light workers, to undermine their relationships, money, confidence, health, and well-being. When I clear those contracts, it sets a lot more people free. So one of the things I'm being guided to do in the new year is really create marketing around that and offer programs specifically to address the darkness, because most people don't speak about it. They don't have the ability to clear curses and a lot of the darkness that's been in place. Sometimes healers, if they're not skilled at it, can end up getting ill from trying to clear curses, things like that. So
then maybe it might be good if you can help others to also clear darkness too. Have you considered a certification program?
Not yet, because they have to vibrate really high, first of all. I mean, I remember I had one case where a woman struggled for 5 years and trying to eliminate a curse that actually started in another life. And I had to go back lifetimes to clear it there. But in the interim of other healers trying to clear it, they all got infected with the curse. This curse had like 128 tentacles on it. It was very convoluted. So I hesitate to just say, okay, yeah, I'm going to teach somebody how to clear it. And it happens to also be a gift, I think, that I have. There's only
undoubtedly.
And there's only 4 of us that I understand in the world that actually has the authority from the throne of God to clear the contracts that maybe Satan has taken out on others, or that people have taken out with darkness. It's a whole gift, skill set, and authority that came from the throne in order to do that. So I don't know that I could actually even teach that.
Yeah, that's why I asked. Okay. Well, so what kind of people would need help right away? Like, how do they know that they should give you a call or reach out in whatever way works?
Well, there's always something to clear. If you look at life and you know that you have an imbalance or that you have a challenge, that is somewhat more obvious. But if you lack in any area of life, you can have something cleared. But basically, if your life is not joy, love, peace, balance, freedom, and abundance in all areas of life, there's something to clear. And my clients are all old souls. And it used to sound glamorous to be an old soul, but not when you want to clean up the stuff. Because if you look at one lifetime and how many mistakes, how much fear, if you got hurt, had a broken heart, created karma, or had some kind of a pattern, and multiply that from 2,500 lifetimes or more, there's a lot of things you can clean up. The more you clean up, the higher you vibrate, the more you ascend. And this is all about ascending. You move into heaven on earth. This is really key. To move into heaven on earth. So there's the 3D and there's 5D. Not everybody is in 5D. If you make it to 5D, you can make it to heaven on earth. But it's all about consciousness. Heaven and hell are both a state of consciousness. It's always about working on the consciousness in order to get there. So all somebody has to do is work on themselves. To work on themselves, they have to let go of every fear-limiting belief that they have, align themselves with the highest light, and the more light they let in, the higher they vibrate, the more they ascend. When you get to heaven on earth, there's levels to all of it. There's levels to all the different dimensions. Even the ascended masters are still ascending. There's always someplace else to reach. When you're in heaven on earth, you also can cross the veil, where you can interact more readily with Jesus and the other ascended masters and angels. They can appear in the physical. It's a whole different dynamic. You can walk through walls. It gets easier because it's more light. People have to get out of their dense consciousness, though, in order to experience that. And the denseness is caused by their past.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
This has been enlightening.
I'm glad.
Me too. Do you have a website, and do you have free gifts for people?
Actually, I do have. There's a free gifts from joy.com. There's a number of things on there, including reports on transition to heaven, what that's like, karma, past lives. There's different information there. Audios, reports, channeled messages. Right now, my website, expresssuccess.net, has a lot of information on it as far as channeled messages from God, angels, and others on the blog. My books are there. Both books, you can access those. Wisdom of the Guardian is always an excellent resource for people who want basic help, and it has prayers and tools in the back. But Michael really is very succinct in his direction to make life easy. And then Clear Your Past and Change Your Future, which you can find on that site as well, elaborates on the history of the world and then how to help people transition to heaven on earth. So if they understand where we've come from, what we've let go of, and now how to proceed to evolve into heaven on earth, it will help them shift.
Okay, thank you.
I also have a group called helpfromheaven.com. It's a Facebook group. It's a private group where people can communicate, ask questions. I share information there, some updates on what's going on.
Okay, awesome. Well, it's wonderful work that you do.
Thank you.
It's an honor to be connected with you.
Well, thank you. Likewise.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed this, and definitely recommend connecting with Joy for obvious reasons.
Thank you.